Hey y'all, my name is Aarit and this is my project for Project 1. So I worked on a lawnmower and you're going to see why here in a second. So just a brief overview of this project. So we had to choose a commonly used and widely known product, describe that product, describe the problem that we have with it, and then give our suggestion. Then provide a detailed CAD of that suggestion, and then the manufacturing processes and materials needed to create that product, and then lastly, the advantages and disadvantages of our suggested improvement. So, like I said, the product I chose was a lawnmower, and I'm going to assume you all know what that is. It's one right here on the screen. Now, what's the problem with it? So, if you've ever seen a lawnmower, you've probably seen that it shoots grass out the side through a chute, kind of like what's shown here on your right side. Now, I got this idea from Professor actually, but apparently sometimes this grass would just get sprayed onto, someone else's car or someone else's property, and that can cause some serious disagreements. Like you can see on the bottom left, some people have complained about this online. So it is definitely a very real problem. Now, how can that be solved? Well, I'll get to that in a second, but you're probably asking, why is a chute even needed? Well, like you can see on this picture on the right side, we need the grass to get out from underneath, so it has to be shot out onto one side, and that's why we need a chute. Now, you're probably also thinking about those lawnmowers that have bags on them, such as the one here on your right side. Now, sure, that is definitely a possible solution, but imagine you have a lot of land. Um, Here in America, it's not uncommon to have a lot of land. Similarly, think about the people who have riding lawnmowers, like the one on the bottom left. How would you attach a bag to that? I don't know. And attaching a bag to that would probably be, pretty big, pretty expensive, so not a very viable option. So what was my solution? So I thought that we would need a blade that can spin in two directions. So one direction will shoot it out onto one side, and spinning it in the opposite direction will shoot the grass out onto the opposite side. Um, of course, this would also require two openings, so two chutes on the lawnmower, which I'll address that in a second. But what I'm showing you right here is a kind of a dual-sided blade. I know it looks a little odd. I'll explain that in a second, but effectively, what I have right here is a two-sided lawn mowing blade. And like I said, this is going to require two openings. So, like you see, kind of in the red circle, I've highlighted the two openings that would be needed to shoot the grass out onto either side. And how does that look altogether? Well, it looks pretty simple. It's the base that has two openings, and then there's the blade in between there. It doesn't really look too different from an existing lawnmower, and that's because it's really not that different. Of course, I've only shown the part that's changed, but of course there would be all the regular lawnmower parts on top of this. So let's talk about the design for this. So it was one designed for assembly, and like I just said, it doesn't look too different than an existing lawnmower, and that helps with the design for assembly. In fact, it's assembled the exact same way as a current lawnmower blade, so not too different if you already are familiar with lawnmowers. And similarly, it's designed for ease of use. So it would require the lawnmower to spin in the opposite direction, so that would simply just be a switch that can flip the direction of the motor. That's it. That's the only real step that would be needed. So very simple and easy to use. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of this solution? Well, again, the main advantage is that you can control which way the grass is being sprayed. So again, you're not going to be causing any fights with your neighbors. And like I just explained in the previous slide, it's not very different than what's currently out there. So it's not complicated in any way. Now, the disadvantages is that it's still possible that there's just not a favorable direction at all. You know, maybe you have cars on both sides and you're just going to have to spray grass onto one of those cars. Now, that's probably a very unlikely situation, but nonetheless still possible. Also, this blade is probably going to be a little bit bigger and heavier and thus more expensive. Now again, I don't predict that it would be particularly, expensive or much bigger, but nonetheless, it probably will be. Now the pictures that you see here on the left side, those are different types of lawnmower blades. I modeled somewhat the one that's on the bottom, just because the one on top just looks so simple that you probably wouldn't even really tell what the difference was. But there are different types of lawn mowing blades, and I've kind of modeled the one down there. So how are these blades actually made? So they're made of a low carbon steel, and they're semi-hardened, but I've heard that they're softer in the middle, which is just so that you can assemble it a little bit easier. Now the actual manufacturing processes. So first, it's cut and stamped into kind of a general shape. Then the edges are milled. So the sharp edges go through a milling process. Next is the forming and shaping. So this is kind of just setting the final shape and, just the final dimensions of the blade. Next is heat treatment, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. That's usually just to make a metal stronger. Straightening, so this was to straighten the tips, like you kind of saw on that previous slide. The one that I modeled kind of has those tips. That's just to help it cut thicker grass. And lastly is finishing, so just labeling, coating, powder coating, whatever, just to get it ready for sale. So what's the final takeaway? So again, the problem was that sometimes if you're cutting your grass, there might be a situation where you're spraying grass onto someone else's property. For example, cars. That's kind of the main issue that some people are having. So what this solution will do is you'll be able to choose which way the grass is being sprayed. That way you're not causing any problems for anyone else. And again, this solution is pretty simple. It's not any rocket science. It's not even that much different than a current lawnmower. So if you know how to use a lawnmower right now, you'll be fine. If you've ever worked on a lawnmower, ever changed the lawn mowing blade, you're going to be just fine. So that's kind of it. Thank you for watching. The resources that I have here was Duramatic, which already makes lawn mowing blades. So that's where I got the process from. And then Home Depot and Amazon were just for some other pictures. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching.